So glad you're here. Happy Father's Day. We actually had, we've been having a lot of technical problems tonight, as you probably could tell with our video and so forth. And so we had a really cool Father's Day video to honor our fathers. And actually in the video, there was an opportunity for one of the fathers here to be given $1 million, but because we don't have it, I'm so sorry. You missed out on that opportunity. But I do want to say Happy Father's Day to the fathers. Really, really glad you're here. God bless you. Hope you have a great weekend. I want to welcome those of you who are online as well. We've been doing a series now for a couple of months, studying the book of Proverbs. And we've called this series The Pursuit of Wisdom. And we're actually going to finish that up this weekend. But in this series, we've been telling you time and time again that the book of Proverbs, is a book in the Bible that is all about wisdom. It's all about God's wisdom for us. And that's really, really important because wisdom is at the core of living a life of faith. In fact, the late Tim Keller, who's the founding pastor of the Redeemer Church in New York City, he defined wisdom this way. He said, wisdom is having competence in the complexities of life where the moral rules or laws don't apply. I want you, if you're taking notes, underline that last part. Where the moral rules or laws don't apply. Because that's about 90% of life, isn't it? See, wisdom is not less than obeying the moral rules and laws of life. Things like stealing, cheating, committing adultery, lying, those kinds of things. No, wisdom is so much more than just that. See, biblical wisdom is able to handle life's complexities that go beyond just the, quote, rules. And this is especially true in the subject that we're going to talk about this weekend, the subject of money. Revolves around money, doesn't it? In fact, the number one subject that married couples argue about is money. The number one reason for divorce today has to do with money. The most obvious expression of our values is how we spend our money. As parents, it's Father's Day weekend. As parents, one of the most, I have a tickle in my throat. One of the most impressionable behaviors that our children remember about us as moms or dads is how we spend our money. You know why? Because how we spend our money shows what we really value. And so if there's one area of life that we really need God's wisdom in, it's in the area of money. So I first want us to look at, why do we need wisdom about money? There are a lot of reasons we need wisdom about money. I'm just going to give you three. First of all, we need wisdom about money because money vices are so subtle. Money vices are devious. They're sneaky. When Jesus commands us not to steal or not to commit adultery, he doesn't then say, and you really need to watch out for these things. He doesn't say that. You know why? Because when we're doing those kinds of things, we know we're doing those kinds of things, right? There's no confusion whether we're stealing something or whether we're committing adultery. We know what those things look like. However, Jesus does say many times, watch out for money. He says, beware and be on your guard against every form of greed. He says, beware of the allure of money. And the book of Proverbs lets us know why Jesus says that by pointing out three subtleties about money vices. And the first subtlety is that money can corrupt integrity. Money can corrupt integrity. If you have a Bible with you, have an app, open it up to Proverbs chapter 11. There's several verses in Proverbs 11 that I want us to look at. The first one is verse 1. Proverbs 11:1, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. See, in the ancient world, when you were buying or selling, you would use kind of a scale to weigh out what you were buying or selling. And oftentimes, people would rig the scale so that the scale weighed heavier or the scale weighed lighter, depending on whether or not you were buying or selling. That was called a false balance. And it was an abomination to God because it was a way of stealing. And why was a false balance an abomination to God? Because the smallest compromises, when it comes to money, can lead to major destruction. In fact, the fact is this, look at letter B. God is much more concerned with the kind of person we are becoming than he is with specific acts of goodness we perform. Because small compromises, even when there are sort of acts of goodness thrown in, will turn us into compromising people. I mean, rarely do financial scandals, huge scandals like Enron from years ago, or Sam Bankman-Fried from the FTX cryptocurrency scandal, or Bernie Madoff. Rarely do those kinds of scandals begin with major indiscretions. No, they begin with small, secretive indiscretions, and then those indiscretions grow over time. Why? Because those small indiscretions chip away at a person's character until they become easier and easier and easier for us to commit. So the writer of Proverbs is talking about the slightest of compromises. Things in your life and mine, like not telling the truth about the change that we receive at the grocery store. We get more change than we should have. We know we did. They made a mistake, but we don't tell them about it. Or we go out to dinner with some friends and we split the bill evenly, 3 or 4 ways or whatever, and we don't pay our amount of the bill. Or we cheat on our taxes when April 15th comes around. And by the way, surveys show that Christians, over 50% of Christians, cheat on their taxes on a regular basis. See, it's not about the rules and the laws. It's about our character and the kind of person we're becoming. Money vices are subtle, and money can corrupt integrity. Second reason why money vices are so subtle, number 2, is because money can distort our values and our priorities. See, things that are supposed to be really important to us begin to take a back seat to the tyranny of wealth accumulation and debt management. And oftentimes, the same thing that's tricky is that it almost looks really responsible and mature and even sometimes spiritual when you and I do that. Somebody says to us, man, why are you working so much? Why are you working 100 hours a week? Oh, I'm just trying to get ahead, trying to provide for my family. Why are you working 80 hours a week? Oh, I'm just trying to pay off some debt. That's why I'm working so much. But see, in the end, the costs of misplaced values and priorities can be devastating. D.H. Lawrence, in his book, The Rocking Horse Winner, he writes about a little boy by the name of Paul. And Paul finds out that if he, quote, races his rocking horse back and forth, the names of winning racehorses at the racetrack mysteriously come into his mind. The only hitch is that getting the names of these winning racehorses requires Paul to race back and forth faster and faster and faster. I mean, does that sound like our culture today? Where the only hitch to you and I getting ahead financially is that we have to race, we have to rock faster and faster and faster. Well, in this story, Paul's family ignores the fact that Paul's doing all this rocking, and they do that because they're so addicted to winning the money, winning all this money. And finally, at the end of the book, Paul dies, his little boy dies, because of rocking so fast. Well, see, the book of Proverbs understands the impact of misplaced values and priorities. Look at Proverbs 11:4. The writer says, "Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death." See, God is interested in our righteousness, in our character. He's not really interested in how much money we make. And unfortunately, many of us, we don't even really see our misplaced values and priorities until it's too late. I mean, so many people in our culture today are rocking faster and faster and faster, trying to get more money. But the result of all that rocking is that our relationships end up feeling strained, our kids feel forgotten, our marriages implode, and our souls shrivel up. Money can distort our values and our priorities. The third reason money vices are subtle is because money can magnify ourselves at the expense of others. In other words, money can give us this false sense of superiority, this false sense of being better than other people. And so we begin to evaluate ourselves and compare ourselves to other people based on our income, or based on the kind of house that we live in, or the kind of car that we drive. People who, quote, hoard their grain, that means when we rip people off financially, or we take advantage of people financially. The writer's saying, even if it's legal for you to do something like that, it's not the right thing to do. And people do that because money gives us this false sense of power. And we begin to think that we're better than other people because we have more money than they have. So why do we need wisdom to handle money? Because money vices are so subtle. They can corrupt our integrity, they distort our values and our priorities, and they cause us to magnify ourselves above other people. Second reason we need wisdom about money is because money can accomplish much of what we want. Look at Proverbs 10:15. The wealth of the is their fortress. If you're taking notes, underline the word fortress. The poverty of the poor is their destruction. You know what this proverb is saying? Well, first of all, you need to know that a fortress in the Bible, some translations say a city, but you need to know that a fortress in the Bible was considered to be a place of refuge. It was a place of security. It was a place of safety and significance. And everyone wanted to live in a city, in a refuge, in a fortress, because of the prestige and the protection that it offered. And so this proverb is saying that for the rich, wealth is their fortress. Wealth is what they think is going to protect them. It's what they think they can take refuge in. It's the thing that makes them feel safe. Sometimes makes them feel secure. And so this proverb is saying that money is the most viable alternative to God for safety, security, and significance. And it meant ruin for both the rich and the poor. I want you to see the way that Jesus said it in Matthew chapter 6. He said, no one can serve two masters. Why not? For either he'll hate the one and love the other, or he will despise the one and hold to the other. And then he says this, you cannot serve both God and wealth. You cannot serve both God and wealth. Now, I want you to know, Jesus is not saying here that money is bad. He's not saying that. He is not saying that it's unwise or it's unspiritual to have two masters. He's not saying that. What he's saying is, you can't do it. He's saying it's impossible to serve both God and wealth at the same time. What is possible, Jesus says, is to serve only one of those two. And so the question that you and I have to face is, which one of those two am I serving? I can't serve both. Am I serving God or am I serving wealth? Maybe you say, well, Brian, how do I know? How do I know if I'm serving God or I'm serving wealth? Well, one way to tell is just look at your checkbook. Look at your debit card statement, your credit card statement. Does anything in there say that you're worshiping God more than you're worshiping money? You can't worship both. Now, psychologists have found that at the center of our deepest needs as human beings is a longing we all have for security and significance. And so oftentimes we spend money or we try to earn more money so that that would make us feel secure or that would make us feel significant. I mean, let's face it. We can spend money to help us feel better. We do that oftentimes. I'm not feeling very great. I'm going to go spend some money, feel better. We can spend money to heal wounds that we have. We spend money to try to boost our self-esteem. We spend money to try to manage our sadness. And at the heart of all of that is our need for security and significance. And we begin to think that money can fill that need. But it can't. It can't, not long term. Money cannot fill that need for security and significance. I mean, think back to Michael Jackson. I mean, what a tragedy. Michael Jackson made and spent more money than probably all of us in this room combined multiple times over. I want to read you a quote from Michael Jackson. He said this, I think all my success and fame, I've wanted it because I wanted to be loved. That's all. That's the real truth. I wanted people to love me, truly love me, because I never really felt loved. See, he was longing for security and significance and love. And so he did things like buy Neverland and, have kids come over and play there and all that. See, using money to try to feel better means that we're using money to try to give us a sense of significance. And if we hoard money to try to make us feel safe, then we're using that money to try to give us security. But when we do those things, we can't serve God because we're serving money. And money ends up becoming an idol. Let me ask you, do you ever use money to give you a sense of safety, a sense of significance, a sense of security? Third reason why we need wisdom about money is because financial wisdom is at the heart of spiritual maturity. Financial wisdom is at the heart of spiritual maturity. Did you know that in the New Testament, there are approximately 500 verses that talk about faith? and in the New Testament, there's about 500 verses or so that talk about prayer. In fact, a little more than 500, but around 500. But did you know that there's over 2,000 verses in the Bible that talk about money and possessions? Over 2,000 verses. And out of the 38 parables that Jesus tells in the New Testament, 16 of them, that's almost half, 16 of the 38 parables that Jesus tells in the New Testament have to do with how to use and handle money. Now, why does the Bible talk so much about money? Because having wisdom about money is at the heart of spiritual maturity. In fact, I want to say this as clearly as I possibly can. If you haven't heard anything I've said tonight, I want you to hear this. And I want to say this kindly, but it might hurt. You will never be spiritually mature until you begin doing your money God's way. You will never be a spiritually mature person until you begin doing your money God's way. That's very clearly what the Bible says. You know, when the disciples asked Jesus to teach them how to pray, and Jesus answered, we call it the Lord's Prayer. It's found, by the way, in Matthew 6, 9 to 13. When Jesus said, pray this way, and then he said, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And then what was the next line? Give us this day what? Our daily bread. Do you know where Jesus got that from? He got it from the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 30, verse 8. Keep deception and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food that is my portion, that I not be full and deny you and say, who's the Lord? Or that I not be in want and steal and profane the name of my God. See, when Jesus told us to pray, give us this day our daily bread, he wanted us to pray daily for provision. You know, when Jesus told us that, maybe Jesus wasn't just being altruistic. Maybe he wasn't really crazy. Maybe Jesus knew a better way of life. A life that was free from the tyranny of wealth or poverty. Because see, the truth is, submitting our money to the lordship of Jesus Christ is a powerful statement about our trust in God. And it's also a powerful statement about our own spiritual maturity. When we surrender all of our finances, all of our resources to the lordship of Jesus, and we tell Jesus, Jesus, they're all yours. I'm just a steward. I'm just a manager of these things. All that I have is yours. I want to spend your resources the way that you want me to. See, that is when we begin to have spiritual maturity. Because Jesus said over and over and over, bring your resources and your wealth under my lordship. And if you do, he said, it'll help transform the world. And if you don't, it'll help destroy the world. Why? Because that's true of anything that holds great power. Are you bringing your resources under the lordship of Jesus Christ? You know, mercenaries on their way to the Crusades were baptized holding their swords out of the water. It's like, Jesus, you can have everything except this. Unfortunately, I think many Christians today are sort of baptized holding their wallets out of the water, or their 401k statement, or their debit card statement, or whatever. It's like, Jesus, you can have everything except this. I hope that's not you. So why do we need wisdom about money? Because money vices are so subtle, because money can accomplish much of what we want, and because financial wisdom is at the heart of spiritual maturity. I want to give you a few thoughts to consider about the subject of money. And the first thought I want you to consider is that it's not really about the money. It's not really about the money. What I mean by that is that the issues that drive our relationship with money and possessions and spending go so much deeper than just the dollars in our pocket or the dollars in our bank account. In an article on money's relationship to happiness, Greg Easterbrook quotes a study that revealed that once a person's income or a family's income exceeded $100,000 a year, there was a decoupling of happiness and money. A decoupling. The more money, over $100,000 a person makes, they become less happy. Why is that? Well, let me give you some statistics. A typical new house today, average size new house today, has about 2,000 square feet in it. In the 1950s, a typical new house had 983 square feet. Did you know there are more trucks and cars in America today than there are licensed drivers to drive them? We have more cars and trucks than we have people to actually drive them. Did you know that over 31 million dog owners purchased Christmas gifts for their dogs last year? And over 39 million cat owners purchased Christmas gifts for their cats. I cannot imagine why. Over 13 million cats have their birthdays celebrated. What I'm telling you is this: we have all kinds of money these days that can be used in all kinds of ways, and yet our happiness levels are going lower and lower and lower. And our depression levels are dramatically increasing every single year. Why is that? Well, one reason is because money has created what sociologists call comparison anxiety. Comparison anxiety. Our lack of contentment is due to how we compare ourselves financially to other people, even though we're doing considerably better than we were in the past. So maybe you're here tonight, or maybe you're watching online, and if the truth were known, you have a lot of financial insecurity. And maybe you have a lot of fear of financial insecurity because of something pertaining to your parents. You know, maybe when you were growing up, your parents argued about money all the time, and so that put a fear in you about financial insecurity. Maybe your parents talked about the lack of money in your family, ruining your family or something. But memories like that have a lot to do with our own financial insecurity. See, oftentimes there really are deeper issues that drive our financial fears. And so oftentimes it's not really about the money. And if that's true for you, don't be discouraged, because grace and freedom are found when we're willing to admit that the issues that we have are deeper and that we need Jesus to fill those empty places in our life. You know, a verse out of Proverbs that I love, applies to so many things, is Proverbs 14:30, where it says, "A tranquil heart is life to the body." And that's what Jesus wants to give us. He wants to give us a tranquil heart, a peaceful heart. See, most financial insecurity that we have is not so much about the money. It's oftentimes a journey into deeper patterns and memories from our past. And the good news is the Holy Spirit wants to enter into those memories and patterns and bring healing and freedom. Second thought I want you to consider about the subject of money. The first one is not about the money. The second one, it is about the money. And what I mean by that is that the rules and the laws that God gives us in the Bible about money do apply. The wisdom of Proverbs doesn't negate the rules and laws of God that he gives about money in other places. Now, yes, the wisdom of Proverbs addresses certain things about finances that the rules and laws of God don't necessarily address. However, the rules and laws of God that he gives us in the Bible about money, they are also filled with wisdom. And they have to be obeyed if we want God's blessing on our finances. You know, so much good could be accomplished just if God's people practice the one rule, the one law that God gives us about financial giving. And the Bible calls it the rule of tithing, or the law of tithing. That's really the only law, the only rule that God gave us about giving. And if you don't know what tithing is, number one, the tithe means giving God the first 10% of all the income he brings our way. That's how followers of Jesus are supposed to live financially, where we give back to God the first 10% of all the income that God brings our way. And God talks about this multiple times in the scriptures. One of the most clear places is in Malachi 3 when God says, bring the whole tithe. Now when it says the whole tithe, the word tithe means 10th part. It's where we get 10%. So God says bring the whole tithe. That means all 10%. Don't bring 7%. Don't bring 3%. Bring the whole tithe, all 10%. And where are we to bring it? Into the storehouse. You know what the storehouse is? The storehouse is the New Testament equivalent of the local church. We're to bring our tithe to the local church that we are attending, that we are a part of. Now, what a lot of people want to do with their tithe is that they want to give it somewhere else. Well, my Aunt Edna's having a really difficult time, so I'm going to give them some of my tithe money. No, not if you're going to obey God. You can help Aunt Edna with what the Bible calls an offering. That's over the tithe, but the tithe goes to the local church. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. Why? So that there may be food in my house, God says. And then he says, and test me and see if I won't open for you the window of heaven and pour out for you a blessing until it overflows. Do you know the book of Proverbs talks about this exact same thing? We're studying the book of Proverbs right now. Honor the Lord from your wealth and from the first of all your produce. And why do we do that? So that your barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will overflow with new wine. Again, to receive God's blessing. So we are to give God the first of all of our income that comes our way. When I say income, what does that mean? That means if you get a paycheck, the first of that paycheck is to go to God. If you get a bonus, the first of your bonus is to go to God. If you have interest income that comes your way, the first 10% of that is to go to God. If you have dividends that come your way, the first 10% of that is to go to God. If you get an inheritance, the first 10% of that is to go to God. If you sell an asset like a house or land or buildings or property and you actually net a profit, then you give off of that net of the profit, you give the first 10%. That's how we're supposed to deal with our money. We are supposed to be tithers. Let me ask you, does God get the first of your income? Or does God get what's ever left over at the end of the month, if anything? Did you know that many financial experts believe that the basic issues of poverty in the world, issues like clean water, food, health care, shelter, would be able to be solved in the whole world with about an extra $100 billion a year. Now, that's a lot of money. But did you know that if the church in America, not the church around the world, just the church in America, if all followers of Jesus in America were to follow this 10% rule that God has given us, we would have an extra $150 billion a year annually. We could solve poverty around the entire world, still have an extra $50 billion to spend on our own church ministries. Why is that important? Well, one thing you need to know about the Bible is that God loves and cares about the poor. And that's one of the reasons that he instituted the tithe. Because as we tithe to our local church, part of that money is to go to help the poor. Now, not all churches do that, but we certainly do that here at the Vineyard. We give a lot of time and energy and money ministering to the poor. We have an entire building out on the back southeast part of our campus. That's all we do out of that building, our compassion building. I want you to see this verse in Proverbs 29:7. The godly care about the rights of the poor. The wicked don't care at all. Let me ask you, do you care about the poor? If you do, can anybody tell by the way you spend your time, energy, and money? Because God really does care about the poor. And that's why we spend so much time, energy, and money here at the Vineyard trying to minister and help the poor. That's why we have a food bank that's open 7 days a week. That's why we have a clothing ministry that's open 7 days a week. That's why we have a free medical clinic. That's why we have a free legal clinic. That's why we have free ESL classes. That's why we do these big outreaches that we do all year long, like the back to school outreach is coming up in July, our Thanksgiving food basket giveaway, our angel tree ministry. We would go downtown and feed the homeless once a month. And we would do a lot more of that stuff if we possibly could. I have vision for a lot more. We want to have a free dental clinic. We want to have free job training. And we want to do all that because God cares about the poor. And so do we here at the Vineyard. You know, years ago when we were on this property, but we only had our youth building over there. That was our main building. And we were getting ready to build this building. We were getting ready to build the standalone compassion building that we had. We were ministering to people out of a different part of the building. And we were doing a children's ministry area. God spoke to me very clearly before we started this project and said, I want you to build the compassion building first. I want you to put the poor at the top of the chart. So I want you to build that first. And God told me, he said, Brian, if you will take care of the poor, I will take care of you. He said that to me personally, but he meant it also for us as a church. If we will take care of the poor, God will take care of us. And we've tried to hold up our end of the bargain, and God has way more held up his end of the bargain. I want you to look at this last verse. Proverbs 28, whoever gives to the poor will lack nothing. Isn't that amazing? But those who close their eyes to poverty will be cursed. Are you helping the poor in any way? If you give financially to this church, you are. Because part of the money that you give goes to help the poor. Would you pray with me? Come, Holy Spirit. I pray your presence would increase right now. And I pray that you would have your way in every heart, every mind. God, forgive us as the church in America, not just our church, but the church all over America. Forgive us for not obeying you with our finances, Lord. Help us to be obedient to you financially. And we're so grateful, God, for the way that you bless us, the way you've blessed our church, the way you've blessed so many of us in this room and online. And I pray for those in our church family who have not found the incredible blessing in obeying you financially. I pray you'd help each and every one of them. You know, I think God is speaking to some of you about starting to do your money God's way. Maybe you didn't even know about tithing. You've never been taught that. It's one of the reasons I teach it, because people just don't know. But some of you, God is saying, I want you to begin to do that. If that's you, you just need to say yes to God. Okay, God, I'm going to start obeying you. And then I think there are others of you, you used to obey God with your finances, but for whatever reason, you've gotten out of the habit, you've gotten away from it. And God is saying, I want you to get back to obeying me with your finances. Would you just say yes to the Lord tonight? If you have a financial need of some kind, just tell God about it. Ask Him to help meet that need. If you have financial insecurity from some of the stuff that you grew up with, you need to ask God to bring healing. Begin to bring those things to the surface. Maybe get some counseling about it. Get some prayer about it. It's nothing to be ashamed of at all. Or maybe you have another area of prayer that you'd like to receive tonight before you go. We'd love to pray for you. So before you go tonight, we'll have a ministry team up here. Stick around. We'd like to pray for you. If you're online, you'd like to receive prayer, just click the prayer button. Would everybody please stand? I want to ask the ministry team to come to the front. I want to pray a blessing over us before we go. Lord, thank you for all my friends here tonight as they go their separate ways, God. I do ask, Lord, that whatever you've spoken into every heart, that you would help us to say yes. But I also pray, Lord, that you would bless each one as we go. Bless us, keep us, cause your face to shine upon us, be gracious to us. Lift up your favor upon us, God, and give us peace. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. And everybody said, amen. Say hi to some people on your way out. God bless. We'll see you soon.